Hello, Serious Survivor here, and this video was inspired by the recent government shutdown. This was actually going to be part 2 to a government shutdown series, but now that the partial shutdown has ended, I decided to put out the video anyway because this video is going to discuss 10 steps that we can take, 10 things that we can do that will help us prepare for some type of economic collapse, government shutdown, a permanent one, or some type of event that turns the economy completely upside down and leaves people possibly homeless, without the means to purchase food, without the means to purchase anything really that they need to survive with on a day-to-day basis. And that's not to mention the luxuries that we're used to being taken away from us. And this could result in almost a steamroll type of effect, because when people start losing the ability to go to work and they don't have the money to support themselves, then the workers that do things such as repair the power grid when we have a major storm come through, or keep the power grid going, or keep our communications going, these people are going to stop reporting for work just like everyone else does. So this can lead to a very devastating and difficult situation to attempt to survive from. But if we do prepare ourselves, then we can take steps that will ultimately give us the upper hand, or give us the best chance of survival in any of these types of situations. So let's look at some of the things that we can do. Number 10, get your cash out the bank. Now, for those that are filthy rich, I realize this may be a problem, but for people like me, it's not that hard. I can just go withdraw it. And I would recommend, if this does progress any further than it does, is start dealing a little more in cash than with credit, because if all of our money is tied up in a bank account of some type, that's one of the first things that's going to happen when the government goes broke, is the government will confiscate our funds. So we have to be aware of that. Keep as much money as you can on hand. Now, I'm not saying keep all of your money at home. That's not what I really mean, but tangible, tradable, bartering type of items, and some money so that you can function if the ATMs do go down. Number 9, documents. Birth certificates, the deed to your home, the deed to any properties that you own, any type of identifying document, things that can prove you are who you say you are and you have what you say you have. So by keeping personal documents, this will enable you to verify your identity and possibly maintain possession of what was truly yours before this event occurred. Number 8, formulate a plan with your immediate family, your loved ones, your friends, anyone close to you that you trust and you want to work with. Find people that you can work with, that you can possibly pool resources with. Make sure that you have people that you trust, but formulate a plan that will get you out of town. Because when SHTF events do occur, they don't broadcast it to begin with. It's going to happen just like that. So we're never truly prepared for when these events are going to happen. We can be ready, but we just don't know. So it's good to have a plan that would get you, your family, out of town or to a safe location. And bugging out like this is something that you really do have to sit down and put some time and thought into, ways to escape from your city, basically escape from the city if people are rioting or if any other type of situation occurs. But having a plan of places that you can rally, places you can group together, and places that you can go to even further out if necessary. This is always a good idea, and the best part about this is it doesn't cost anything, just a little bit of time. Number 7, on a very often overlooked one here, is sort of 2 in 1. First, fuel. Fuel for your vehicles, gasoline, diesel fuel. And this is very important because when this type of event occurs, an economic disaster, an economic collapse, fuel will be one of the first things to go. Fuel that is around will be so expensive that only the wealthy of us will be able to afford even a few gallons. So having some fuel stockpiled or stored somewhere is something that you just cannot go wrong with. And not just fuel though, we don't want to limit it there. Make sure your vehicles are in tip-top condition, or at least as tip-top condition as they can be in. Because when the trucks stop moving and the deliveries are no longer happening, your local parts store doesn't have that part you need, then you have a vehicle that won't run. So having your vehicles in tip-top condition in any situation that you might be anticipating something go wrong is a very important factor. You don't want it to break down on your way out of town as you're bugging out. So keep your vehicles in excellent condition. Make sure your spare tire is good, cans of Fix-A-Flat, things such as that. And there's videos on the channel and other channels that really talk about very good vehicle kits. Number 6, whether you're planning on staying in your primary location or your home during this event and try to ride it out through the duration of it, have a bug out bag for every member of your family and anyone that will be coming with you. And even though you might be planning on staying where you're at, you never know what's going to happen, and there are a multitude of things that could force us from our home, something as simple as a fire or a flood. So these things can force us from our home, and mobs of people can have the same effect also. So have a bug out bag, something that you can pick up, put on your back, and get out of town and survive for several days, if not longer, if you're highly skilled at surviving. So a bug out bag is an important aspect to this, and it's good to keep one for each member of your family. Five, power, candles, some type of lighting, heat. This can be solar power, small solar power panels that you can sit out during the day, charge up your batteries and bring them in at night. Candles are excellent at night because they don't put off too much light, and you don't want to give away if anybody's in your home or if anybody's not there. So you don't want bright light around you at all times at night. If this type of event does come down, then using candles is a good way around that. Candles will illuminate your house pretty well, and they allow you to get around pretty good. They're very cheap to buy, and candles burn for quite a while. But if you don't want that, or if you want a combination of it, also think about portable lights, just your small flashlights and even lanterns, battery powered, solar powered, but better yet, the hand crank type, or solar power and hand crank combination. But some type of lighting, and also some type of electricity from solar panels or devices like that will allow you to power up your smaller devices, your phones and your computers, so that we can see what's going on in the world, because we're going to need to communicate with society. We're going to need to monitor the news and see what's going on. Having power in your home so that you can charge your devices and you can maintain a communications with the outside world and the gathering of intelligence and information about what's going on in society. So a very important aspect is electricity, but something that will give us a really good heads up on what's going on in the world. Number 4, an adequate food supply. Now, everybody knows their own families better than anyone else knows them. So when it comes to an adequate food supply, everyone will have different needs of what they need to store. A good rule for me that I apply to basically everything in prepping is I always store more than I need. I buy more than I want for that one-time use, and that way I always have little left over. So food storage, there are a lot of very good reputable companies out there, Wise, Mountain House, and other companies that provide pretty decent freeze-dried meals that are relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other products on the market. Now, also with this food supply, we want to take into account that if you are cooking this and you are in what I would call a hostile environment or in an urban area when there are riots going on and there is civil unrest, you don't want to draw any attention to yourself, just like we mentioned with the lighting earlier. And for a hungry person, the smell of food will be detectable from a long ways away. And when someone is starving to death and their friends and their family are starving to death and they smell some really good food food coming from your house. They're coming in at that point. So when you pick your food, keep that in mind. You want to be able to prepare it, to cook it to where the scent of it, the smell of it, does not permeate the entire house and the entire neighborhood. Store bland and I guess just, plain tasting foods with lower levels of seasoning and salt and spices so that the smell of it doesn't carry. Number 3, water purification, water storage, water gathering. This is probably one of the things that will affect people the fastest when the power goes down and the water stops flowing. If we don't have a water supply, or if we don't have a means of gathering water, this is going to take a devastating toll on everyone almost immediately. 3 days. And most people will die of dehydration without water. Less in hot environments and less for sick and elderly people. Having a means to purify water is a must during this situation because we never know where we're going to have to acquire this water from. And water gathering can be done many different ways. If you have a local stream, a local lake, if you live near the ocean, there are purification methods for salt water. Then, gathering the water, storing the water. Storing water is harder than it may seem because it's large. Water takes up a lot of space and water's heavy. So storing a lot of water is going to take up a lot of space and going to put a lot of stress on the floor of where you're storing it at. But this has to be taken into account, and it should be one of the primary things that we decide to start prepping for or planning for if we're going to plan for this type of event. Water purification, there are many different types of filters on the market, but we need a means of water purification, water gathering, and water storage. So we need to plan for that. Number 2, medical, first aid, medication. And this is just like it sounds. When the social services stop, because they will stop after the money stops flowing. They'll go for a little bit, but not for very long. And when people start panicking and when people start rioting, then people are going to be injured and people are going to be hurt. And that's going to bring the higher need for medical treatment. Now, in the beginning, the hospitals are going to be so overwhelmed that they're going to run through their medical supplies like candy. And this stuff is going to be gone very quickly. And without any power, if the situation does get dire, then companies that produce these goods are no longer producing these goods to send to the hospitals to take care of these sick and injured people. So make sure that you have a first aid kit. And I don't mean one of these $10 Walmart first aid kits. I mean a first aid kit that can truly treat injuries, not just a paper cut, not just a bruise or an insect bite. Yeah, that's good to have those in your car and in places like that. But in your home for this type of situation, you have to think for the long term here. So you're going to want a medical first aid kit, and if you are on any type of medication or family members are, do your best to get at least a month's supply ahead of time. Doctors will give that out for like non-narcotics and things like that, so it shouldn't be an issue if it's a truly life-saving type of medication. Number 1, and what I think will ultimately, for a lot of people, boil down to be the most important aspect. All it takes is one time of not having this, and it's all over for that individual, and that's self-defense skills. If you're not able to defend yourself, then how are you going to defend your family? That's the real question. If I'm not going to train and I'm not going to prepare myself by making sure I have adequate weapons and adequate protection, then how am I going to protect the ones that I say that I'm going to protect? Keeping yourself in at least decent physical condition will go a long ways. For those that can't physically fight, for those that are just not very adept in hand-to-hand combat, then you want to think weapons. You need a means to protect yourself. And number 1 on that list, obviously, is going to be firearms. For those that can afford firearms and for those that live in a firearm-friendly state that will allow you to own and maintain these guns, then this is what you're going to want to have. You're going to want to have a rifle, you're going to want to have a shotgun, and a pistol. The pistol is for up close quarters combat, and it's your backup weapon. Your rifle, I like more of the AR-15 type of platform. I like that. It's very, you can modify it. You can make a lot of changes to it. It's a really good platform. But a rifle, a backup pistol, and then your shotgun. You always want to keep a shotgun handy too. And if at all possible, a little .22 so that you can hunt quietly or more quietly for small game such as squirrels, rabbits, and small animals. So regardless of all the other things we talk about, it may very well come down for a lot of people to 1 minute of 1 hour of one day when you're faced by that individual or individuals in which you have to defend yourself. And if you don't have the ability or the means to do so, then that will very well be the last day. This is one of those things we hope we never need. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And for now, Serious Survivor out.